Hey guys, it's BB202, and a couple months ago I made a video about LEGO Castle Fantasy type sets, and at the end of that video I asked you guys for your opinions on what kinds of sets you would like to see in the future. Now originally I was asking about fantasy set ideas, but I ended up getting a whole plethora of responses that covered a wide range of things, and what I would like to do is address all of that here. So what I've done is taken a few of those comments and I'm going to be responding to them, breaking them down, and adding my own ideas to what you guys have submitted to me. So before we start, don't forget to subscribe. LEGO Castle videos are all I make, and let's get into the video. I would love to see LEGO bring a medieval spin on the City People packs they released a few years ago. It would be a really great way to build up a peasant/civilian population to pair with the upcoming medieval village set. I totally agree. I'm not sure why LEGO hasn't done this yet. Now, when you think about it, LEGO has made a couple of prototype medieval people packs going all the way back to the 80s, where there was a set of just figures that included Black Falcons, Crusaders, Forestmen, and a peasant all in one box. Now, I'm pretty sure that's the only time that combination has ever happened in one set. It was usually just, if there was any conflict, it was just two factions in a box, not four. But the possibilities that that tiny little set had were just endless. I'm not sure why LEGO didn't make more of those. Now, if LEGO were to make a city-style people pack, and by the way, I don't know why they stopped making those. I thought those were great. I own two of them myself. It would probably look like the advent calendars they made for Fantasy Era and Kingdoms. Those were great too. I get that LEGO doesn't make them anymore because there's no associated castle theme, but I do think it would look very similar with the kind of the smaller builds, not micro builds, but smaller builds like a throne or a fireplace or a weapons rack, combined with a variety of minifigures. That would pair perfectly with the Medieval Village set, which is probably only going to have 7 to 10 minifigures and be a couple $100s. It'll also be a way for people to get in on the action even if they can't afford that set, because maybe for $30 you can get a whole bunch of minifigures and just a bunch of small builds to fill out your castle scene instead of going all in and buying that big set. So that's an opportunity that LEGO should take advantage of. It would be really cool to see the return of fantasy battle packs with elves, dwarves, humans, and orcs. Now, this is a similar comment to the one made about people packs and how I kind of took it in the direction of the 80s set, the advent calendars. Now, what this comment's talking about, and it was the most popular comment on the video, are the battle packs that came out in the Fantasy Era, which were faction specific. They had 5 figures in each pack, all the same faction. That's another big loss in terms of these low price castle sets, and obviously you know how I feel about those if you've been subscribed to this channel for a long time. I will always vouch for the smaller castle sets. You know, they might not be as detailed, they might not be as quote-unquote cool, but when you take away all the low-priced castle sets, you take away the minifigure packs too. And LEGO really struck gold when they made these back in the day. They had 5 figures. I don't think they'd do that again if they were to reintroduce them, because that was 15 years ago. I think they were $15 when they came out. They downsized over the years. There were the 2 Kingdoms ones that had 5 apiece, but by the time they got to Nexo Knights, some of those later Ninjago packs, they only had 3. And the price didn't go down by too much to match it. I think they were $12.99. But yeah, I'd love if LEGO brought this concept back, even if it were just for the Black Falcons, the Lion Knights, and they didn't make anything new. If they introduced a couple of new head prints or torso prints, that would be enough to make it worthwhile buying that instead of buying in bulk on Bricklink or directly from LEGO. So that's, again, another opportunity that they should take a look at. Switching it up here a little bit, I actually think a Vikings versus some ice trolls or ice zombies theme would be really nice. The zombies could look like the one in the Northman movie. Another weird idea is actually some warrior gnomes versus some other creatures. Maybe they could live in a mushroom fortress. Now, this reminded me of the Bricklink Designer Program Series 2 Mushroom House that's coming out next June. It's almost certainly going to achieve crowdfunding and turn into a set. I like it a lot. I think the design is clever. A lot of props to the designer. I don't think I'm going to be getting it, but it is going to make for a good set. Now, if LEGO were to make a full-time gnome faction in a castle theme, I'd like for them to be wearing maybe the acorn helmet that they had in the collectible minifigure series a few years ago. Another great piece that I don't own but I wish I did and just for that reason alone, I'd like to see some gnomes in a LEGO set. Wouldn't mind seeing season/biome themed builds. Maybe some ice dwarves in a snow-covered castle, some elves in a tree city, some knights in a lava mountain castle, some high elf griffin riders in a cloud city golden fortress, etc. A lot of great ideas here, man. I love the creativity. And it does make a good point. We have not gotten seasons in a castle set before, and we really should. Now that might finally be coming to fruition. The Viking village that came out just a month ago notably has snow on the ground. That's great. I think it adds a lot of atmosphere to that set. It puts you in Scandinavia where, it's cold most of the year. I think that's wonderful. Actually, I'm going to be getting that set pretty soon. I know I didn't make a full thoughts video on it, but you're getting a little taste of that right now. But back to this comment, I'd love to see fall in a castle set especially. Even when there's been the odd tree in a castle, it's always been green, and I think that LEGO could switch it up a bit. Just style points, We've gotten to the point where we've got highly specialized LEGO pieces. They're using them more creatively than ever, and I think this is time to add a bit of spice to these castle sets. Personally, I would love to see sets that focus on the building aspect of the Middle Ages. Not so much fantasy, but medieval builders, scaffolding, and cranes. Also masons, woodworkers, lumberjacks, smaller boxes with a bear chasing a lumberjack up a tree, or a partial wall with scaffolding and masons digging and building. I think this will make the landscape around a castle more interesting. Funny enough, the first thing I thought of when I read this comment was this obscure LEGO idea book that came out back in the 80s. And it showed a medieval construction site built. It was kind of like an alternate build of the sets they had available at that time. And it's such a bizarre thing because there's just that one image of it. And that's all we've ever gotten from LEGO on the topic of medieval construction. And it's something that should be touched on more often, because you see all these castle sets that LEGO puts out, but then you think, right, of course we're building them because we're people building them out of a box, but if they were to exist in real life, it would have a gigantic team of people working around the clock for decades to build castles as large as LEGO makes them. I'd just love to see LEGO touch on that in an official capacity. Obviously, they couldn't make a cathedral or one of the religious buildings that might have taken a century to just build from the ground up, just because of the labor and how long it would take to build it. But I do think that this is something LEGO should touch on. And finally, I'm a fan of the blacksmith shop, but they should make different buildings in the same style so you can create a big city or village. Some examples are a bakery, wood shop, houses, a farm, and a market. Again, completely agree. Fortunately, the medieval village seems to be addressing this. At least there's going to be a tavern, I think an inn, a cheese shop. So especially with the cheese shop, we're getting something that we haven't gotten before, but this is an idea that LEGO can expand upon in the future. Of course, there were a ton of different medieval businesses, the vast majority of which LEGO has pretended do not exist. Everything is just a tavern or a blacksmith shop. If there were that many blacksmiths, there would be more swords than people, which is a little ridiculous, isn't it? But that is the topic of a future video. I think modulars would be fantastic. That would be a great way to get these buildings, and so you could be able to connect them to each other and create like a crowded medieval town that looks a little more realistic. Because truly, if you've ever seen a medieval city, or you live in Europe and you've ever seen an aerial shot of your town, you see how dense these things are and how it's almost maze-like if you look at it from above. And I'd love to be able to recreate that in LEGO. Now, I would like to thank you for watching, but before you click away, I'd like for you to leave a comment as well, answering the following question. What are your LEGO Castle set ideas? Now, these could pertain to new factions, set ideas, set suggestions, anywhere you want to go with this. I'm happy to hear you out, and maybe I'll respond to you in a future video. I certainly will make another one of these if we get enough comments and engagement, because that's what we're working with right here. So feel free to leave a comment. I will be sure to at least read it, hopefully respond to it, and again, you might be in a future video. Now, I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more LEGO Castle videos.